my wrestling background. I thought, you know what, that's been a big part of me in my life and growing up, and really helped shape me into the person I am today, The
words of new Buffalo Bills head coach Sean McDermott. While the Bills were making Super Bowl appearances in the early 90s, McDermott was becoming a two-time National Prep School wrestling champion for LaSalle College High School near Philadelphia. Since then, McDermott has had an impressive rise through the NFL coaching ranks, but he has never forgotten the impact that wrestling has had on his career and his life.
Probably about 4 or 5 years ago, springtime, every year the PR department gives us our bio, and we have to check it for accuracy and all that type of good stuff. And there was no mention of the wrestling, my wrestling background. I thought, you know what, that's been a big part of me in my life and growing up, and really helped shape me into the person I am today, both on and off the field. And so I figured I should mention it in there. And really, you know, to your question, there's a lot of life lessons you learn through wrestling, whether it's growing up around the sport or you know, when you get older, junior high and high school wrestling. So life lessons like adversity and determination, commitment, work ethic, I think those are huge to life.
I'm not going to ask you to brag, but tell me a little bit about your high school career.
Yeah, I started off at North Penn High School, a public school outside of Philadelphia, and had what most would consider a good career there, and then transferred to LaSalle High School outside of, again, Philadelphia, and ended up being, I think, 62 or 64 and 0, and won the National Prep Championship 2 years in a row. So I'd also add, if I could brag for a second, only taken down once in 2 years. So that was my forte. I wasn't a pinner. I would just wear people out.
What was your go-to takedown?
Low single takedown. That was just, I was a quicker guy and faster guy, so I used that cardio. I like to be in good shape and kind of use my cardiovascular endurance and just, again, wear people out the low single.
Your weight class?
Believe it or not, 171. First 2 years, freshman and sophomore year, 140, 145, and then all the way up to 171, hit a growth spurt. And I was a football player as well, so it was tough to try and bring it back down to probably where it should have been.
I was going to ask you, tough cutting weight your senior year?
A little bit, not too much. I would wrestle up a little bit at 189 and then down to 171, but probably should have dropped if I was really serious about a career in college with wrestling. I probably should have dropped down.
What college opportunities did you have in wrestling?
Well, I spoke to a number of schools: Virginia, George Mason, a little bit with Penn State. You know, that's before Penn State really came back on the map with Coach Sanderson and whatnot. But yeah, some of those schools, and just decided to go with football.
Now, I wrote an article actually because your high school coach was quoted as saying that when he asked you in high school about doing both sports and how tough that was, you told him football's easy, wrestling's hard.
That's right.
And I think anybody who's wrestled and played football will agree with that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, wrestling, when you go from football to wrestling season, it was always a big shock to the system because you thought you were in shape. I played both ways, quarterback, I played defensive back, did some kicking, punting, mostly punting, and I thought I was in great shape. But then when you get into the wrestling room and the wrestlers they've already started their season, at least practice-wise, I was always out of shape, and so that was always a shock to the system.
Fred Smerlis, who was a great nose tackle here for the Bills, he was a state champ, state high school wrestling champ. Right. He always told me he wished the seasons had been reversed because wrestling would have really gotten him in shape for football.
True, that's true. And you know, more than anything, I think there's a whole lot of mental toughness, mental endurance as well that goes into wrestling, and that carries over to not only football but life as well.
I know you were impressed with the performance by Penn State at the NCAAs. I mean, who wasn't? 5 champs. Mike Zimmer from the Minnesota Vikings is a big wrestling guy. He looks for wrestlers in the draft amongst the linemen. And he once had Dan Gable come and talk to his team before a playoff game to talk about what it means to be a champion. You have access through ownership to Penn State. Have you ever thought about bringing in somebody like Cal Sanderson to talk to the team?
I have, and it's funny you mentioned that. I do have access to Cal's information, contact info, and it's actually sitting on my desk that I plan to reach out to Cal, and if for nothing else, just to share leadership stories and maybe get some tips or advice on, you know, whatever sport you do. If you're good at it, you're doing something right. Just habits, and hopefully, you know, see if Cal would agree to come and speak to us at some point.
What would you say to a high school athlete who's considering wrestling as a sport?
I would absolutely encourage any young man or woman to wrestle. Again, the life skills that you pick up through a sport, it's really it's a team sport, but there's a lot of one-on-one time in wrestling, and I always looked at it as, what am I doing that my opponent's not doing? As I go home at night and get done my academics, get through the academic side of being a student, I would go out and run, get an extra run or lift in, just to out prepare my opponent, and so I think that's big, and it's true in life as well, that you do things to set yourself apart, habits, and we just talked as a team on the field that you have to focus on the process. This part of the year is all part of the process, and you never know what's going to set us apart from the rest of the teams in the NFL.
You said your son has dabbled in wrestling. Do you think he'll pursue it?
We'll see. We're going with the marathon, not a sprint approach. I burnt out in wrestling middle part of my career, and then I was able to hit the reset button and got back on it. And I just wanted to ease him into it, and he enjoys it as a young man. We'll see if he continues with it. Being back up in the Northeast, I'm happy that this is a wrestling hotbed, if you will, that he'll have a chance, if he wants to pursue a sport like wrestling.